Retiring at 45 isn't just a dream for the wealthy or lucky. It's possible for ordinary people who learn the right habits, apply discipline, and take advantage of proven wealth-building strategies. The foundation comes from ideas in books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, The Millionaire Next Door, Thomas Stanley, Your Money or Your Life, Vicki Robin, and The Simple Path to Wealth, J.L. Collins. The numbers don't lie. If you follow the math, freedom becomes a question of when, not if. 1. Calculate your freedom number. The journey to retiring at 45 doesn't start with money. It starts with clarity. Most people spend their entire lives working without ever stopping to calculate what it would actually take to stop working. Retirement is treated like an age you wait for, not a number you can reach. But financial freedom has nothing to do with turning 60 or 70. It begins the moment your life is covered without needing a paycheck. This idea is emphasized in The Simple Path to Wealth, where independence is treated as a formula, not a fantasy. That formula leads to something called your freedom number, and discovering it is the first real step toward changing how you live the rest of your life. Your freedom number is the amount you need invested, so your lifestyle is paid for automatically. Not one day, not when you're old, not when your body is tired. The moment your life is funded by something other than your job, you're free. It doesn't matter where you live, what field you work in, or what your background is. Your freedom number is personal, simple to calculate, and achievable if you approach it correctly. The calculation itself surprises people because of how straightforward it is. You start by adding up how much it costs you to live for a year. That means everything: where you live, what you eat, transportation, family needs, fun, travel, lifestyle comforts, whatever is real for you. Once you know that, you multiply it by 25. That's it. If you spend $40,000 a year, then 40,000 times 25 equals 1,000,000. That million isn't about being rich. It's about never needing to work for survival again. If your yearly lifestyle is 30,000, your number becomes 750,000. If you can live well on 20,000, your number is 500,000. It's not a random target. It's the amount required, so your investments can generate enough returns each year to pay for your life without you needing a paycheck. It's the amount required, so your investments can generate enough returns each year to pay for your life without you needing a paycheck. When people hear numbers like this for the first time, they often panic because they imagine saving that amount dollar by dollar like stacking bricks. But that's not how people reach financial freedom. No one builds their number by hoarding cash. They build it through investing and letting compounding do the work over time. The moment you understand this, the fear around the number starts to fade. You stop seeing it as a wall and start seeing it as a destination. And unlike a wall, a destination can be reached with consistent steps. That's why this calculation is so powerful. It takes retirement from a vague someday and turns it into a measurable goal. You no longer wonder if it's possible. You begin to understand what it will take. The best part is that your freedom number is not fixed. You can shrink it or grow it depending on the lifestyle you choose. If you want luxury and excess, your target will be higher. If you aim for a simple, comfortable life with fewer unnecessary costs, the target drops. When people realize this, they stop imagining retirement as something distant and start shaping it around who they are and what they actually value. Knowing your number also changes how you make daily decisions. Without a goal, money flows out of your life without direction. With a goal, you start asking better questions. Is this helping me reach freedom faster, or is it pushing it further away? You don't need to live cheaply or deprive yourself. You simply stop moving on autopilot. You gain the power to make choices instead of reacting to habits, trends, and pressure. That mental shift alone can shave years off your working life because intention always beats confusion. Another important truth is that your starting point doesn't disqualify you. People who retired early didn't begin with wealth. They began with a number and a decision. Some were in debt. Some were earning very little. Some were starting late. But the moment they knew their freedom number, they stopped drifting. They made changes, not because someone forced them to, but because they could finally see the finish line. When your mind can measure something, it can work toward it. When your life has a target, every step, even a small one, feels like progress instead of pressure. Understanding your number also protects you from one of the biggest traps: thinking you need to earn more before you start planning. The truth is, income alone is not the deciding factor in reaching freedom. Someone earning an average salary but living intentionally can hit their number sooner than someone making double but spending everything. Freedom depends more on what you keep than what you make. And the moment you calculate your number, your brain starts focusing on the right lever instead of guessing in the dark. Let's zoom in on something important. As soon as you know your freedom number, your relationship with time starts to change. Instead of telling yourself someday, you start asking, how soon? You stop judging your progress emotionally and start viewing it mathematically. If you need 1,000 to retire and you save and invest a certain amount each month, you can literally calculate how many years it will take. And once you know that, you can shorten the timeline by adjusting 3 things. Your spending, your income, and your consistency. Spending affects your freedom number directly. If you lower your lifestyle costs, the target drops, and you need less time to reach it. Income affects how much you can invest each year. If you increase what you earn, you can accelerate growth. Consistency ensures that compounding does its job. You don't need to master all three at once. People who retire early usually start with just one and improve the others along the way. The formula gives you permission to build, not to rush. One of the biggest mental transformations happens after people write their number down for the first time. Until then, money feels chaotic and endless. From there, something powerful happens. You begin to take control of your choices. You might decide to reduce one expense, delay one upgrade, or add one new source of income. And this is where the emotional shift kicks in. When you know your freedom number, you stop comparing your life to others. You stop chasing meaningless upgrades. You stop thinking you're behind just because someone else bought a bigger home or a newer car. You start focusing on the finish line that belongs to you. Suddenly the question is no longer, can I retire? It becomes, how fast can I get there if I lock in and commit? This is why step one is the most important step of all. Without this number, every financial move feels random. With it, everything begins to connect. People underestimate how much this one calculation can change how they live, how they think, and how they spend. The moment you calculate your number, you stop working blindly and start working with intention. You finally understand what you're building and why. Financial freedom isn't something that arrives at a magic age. It arrives the moment your lifestyle is paid for without your labor. And the first real step to making that happen is knowing exactly what that lifestyle costs each year and multiplying it by 25. That's your target. That's your map. That's the doorway into everything that comes next. When you know the price of your freedom, you stop drifting and start designing. And once that shift happens, your timeline changes forever. 2. Invest consistently. Money sitting in a bank account moves too slowly to create freedom. Anyone who has ever reached financial independence did it through growth, not storage. In the simple path to wealth, the core message is clear. Investing is not a luxury for the rich. It's the engine that turns ordinary incomes into life-changing results. And that's exactly what this step is about. Your money has to work while you sleep, while you rest, while you live. Otherwise, you'll stay trapped in the cycle of earning and spending with no exit in sight. When people hear the word investing, they often imagine risk, complication, or needing expert knowledge. But investing isn't about guessing or gambling. It's about using time and consistency to multiply what you already have. Historical financial data from decades of global market performance shows that broad-based stock indexes tend to return an average of about 7% after inflation over the long term. That number isn't random. It's the result of companies growing, economies expanding, and investors staying consistent through ups and downs. You don't need to predict the market. You don't need to beat it. You just need to participate and stay in. To understand how powerful investing is, imagine putting aside $1,500 every month and investing it into a long-term index fund or diversified portfolio that tracks the market. This is why so many people who retire early talk about compounding like it's a superpower, because it is. Compounding means your money earns returns, and then those returns start earning their own returns. The earlier you start, the harder your money works for you. Even if you're beginning later than you hoped, consistent investing still creates momentum that saving alone could never produce. Someone saving $1,500 a month without investing will end up with $360,000 after 20 years. Someone investing that same amount at a 7% return could triple that. The difference isn't effort, it's growth. Investing also creates something crucial: separation between your time and your income. When your only source of money is your own labor, freedom will always feel distant. But when your investments begin generating returns on their own, your timeline accelerates. Every year you invest is a year your future self is buying time back. That's how ordinary people step out of the workforce decades earlier than expected. Not by luck, but by putting money where it can multiply. It's important to remember that investing doesn't need to be complicated to be effective. Many people delay because they think they need to understand everything before starting. In reality, the act of starting matters more than the act of perfecting. Slow decisions are what keep people stuck, not small mistakes. The goal is not to chase the biggest possible return. It's to stay consistent long enough for compounding to build the foundation of your freedom. Another powerful advantage of investing is that it allows you to hit your freedom number without having to increase your income endlessly. You don't need to earn millions. You need to invest a portion of what you earn consistently so it grows into something substantial. Even if you can't invest large amounts at first, small amounts compounded over time do more than people expect. And investing doesn't just grow your money, it protects it from inflation. While prices rise every year, money sitting in a traditional savings account quietly loses value. Investing ensures that your money not only keeps up with the cost of living, but grows beyond it. That's what makes your retirement number reachable sooner instead of later. One of the biggest mindset shifts is realizing that every invested dollar is an employee working for you. When you invest consistently, you're building an army of workers that never sleep, never take breaks, and never ask for time off. While you're living your life, those investments are silently pushing you closer to the day you can stop working altogether. The earlier you build that army, the sooner you get to step away from the grind and choose how you spend your time. Even for those who feel like they're starting late, consistency can change everything. 10 years of investing with discipline can outperform 30 years of saving without growth. The key is to start where you are, with what you have, and commit to letting your money work longer than you can physically work yourself. You don't need perfect timing, you need steady momentum. The people who retire early don't just think differently, they use different tools. They don't rely on luck, inheritance, or sudden breakthroughs. They rely on the quiet power of investing over time. They understand that every contribution, no matter how small, is a step toward replacing their income with returns. And because of that, they stop seeing investing as optional and start treating it as essential. At some point, something clicks. You realize that every day you delay investing is a day you lose potential growth. Every month you contribute is a month your future self gets back. And every year you stay consistent is a year closer to stepping away from work permanently. Saving protects money. Investing multiplies it. That difference is what allows financial freedom to show up decades earlier, instead of at an age picked by tradition. Retiring at 45 requires more than hope. It requires putting your money to work in a system that grows over time. That system already exists. You don't have to invent it. You just have to use it. Once your investments begin to build momentum, well, the idea of leaving work early stops sounding unrealistic and starts sounding like a timeline you can shape. This step isn't about chasing fast returns or predicting the future. It's about using time as your partner instead of your enemy. The earlier you start and the more consistent you are, the less you'll have to struggle later. Investing is the bridge between today's effort and tomorrow's freedom. And once you understand that, you stop depending on luck and start depending on a plan that actually works. When your money is growing in the background, you gain something most people never feel: control. You're no longer stuck earning to survive. You're building something that works even when you don't. That shift is what turns early retirement from a fantasy into a strategy. And step 2 is where that shift truly begins. 3, maximize tax-advantaged and growth accounts. In your money or your life, there's a powerful idea that every dollar you keep is more valuable than every dollar you earn, because what you earn can be taxed, but what you keep can compound. That's the mindset behind using tax-advantaged and long-term growth accounts. These aren't loopholes for the wealthy. They are tools designed for anyone who wants to build long-term security. Every financial system in the world has some version of accounts that reduce or delay taxes to help your money grow faster. The people who retire early don't ignore these. They use them strategically before putting money anywhere else. When you invest through tax-sheltered accounts, you give your money room to compound without losing chunks to taxation along the way. That might not sound dramatic at first, but over 10, 15, or 20 years, the difference is massive. Imagine 2 people investing the same amount. One invests through a regular account, losing a portion of gains to taxes every year. The other invests through a protected account, allowing every bit of growth to stay invested. Over time, one is dragging a weight while the other is running free. The gap that forms between them is not about effort, it's about structure. Most people underestimate how much taxes quietly slow wealth building. If you're earning returns and losing a percentage every year to taxation, you're not just giving up money, you're giving up compounding on that money forever. When you use accounts designed to minimize or postpone taxes, you're not cheating the system. You're using it the way it was built for long-term growth. This allows your investments to grow untouched, and that uninterrupted compounding is what accelerates your journey to retirement at 45. The key is to treat tax-advantaged accounts as your first stop, not an afterthought. Whether your system offers retirement accounts, pension-style plans, long-term savings incentives, or investment shelters with tax breaks, the principle is the same. Fill those up before investing in regular accounts. Once those are maxed out, you can use standard brokerage or investment platforms for extra growth. This layering approach protects you twice, first from taxes and then from wasted potential. Another major benefit of using these accounts is that they create automatic discipline. Many of them encourage consistent contributions, sometimes through payroll systems or automated transfers. This takes emotion, hesitation, and forgetfulness out of the equation. Money moves before you have the chance to spend it on anything else, and over time, that habit alone can be worth hundreds of thousands. Small contributions made consistently through protected accounts grow much faster than larger, inconsistent contributions in fully taxable environments. Maximizing these accounts is also a way to future-proof your freedom. When you eventually stop working, the last thing you want is to hand over a large portion of your returns to taxes before you even use them. By investing in the right order, tax-sheltered first, taxable second, you keep more of what you earn, and the money you keep keeps working. Like, this is how people hit their freedom number earlier than expected. They're not always investing more, they're losing less. Another overlooked advantage is optionality. Building wealth inside tax-efficient accounts gives you flexibility later. You can decide when and how to withdraw, you can coordinate with other income sources, and you can manage your tax liability in a way that someone with only taxable investments cannot. Early retirees build layers of income intentionally, and tax-advantaged investing forms the base of that structure. And this is where mindset becomes more powerful than numbers. Most people think wealth is only about how much they make, but financially free people understand it's equally about how much they keep. If two people invest the same amount over 20 years, but one loses 15 to 30% of gains to tax every step of the way, the other will end up much closer to retirement, sometimes even doubling the final amount. The person who didn't use tax shelters will think investing didn't work fast enough. The person who did will think the journey was surprisingly doable. It's also important to recognize that using these accounts doesn't require you to be an expert. You don't need to understand every rule on day one. You don't need to have a perfect plan before starting. What matters most is using what's available, even if you begin with small contributions. Over time, you can increase how much you put in, diversify the investments inside these accounts, and use additional accounts once the first ones are full. It's not perfection that builds freedom, it's repetition. Many people delay because they assume they'll learn about taxes later. But every year they ignore these tools is a year of lost compounding. Worse, it's a year where unnecessary taxes weaken their momentum. Early retirees aren't necessarily earning more or working harder. They are simply wasting less of their growth. The system takes money from people who don't pay attention and rewards people who do. Your goal isn't to memorize complex rules. Your goal is to understand the order. Invest through protected accounts first, then use regular accounts only after those are filled. This simple prioritization is what allows compounding to accelerate instead of stall. It turns a 25-year retirement timeline into a 15-year one, or a 15-year plan into a 10-year one. And that time saved? That's where life begins to change. When you combine tax efficiency with consistent investing, something incredible happens. You stop feeling like you're crawling. Progress becomes visible. Growth feels faster. Your freedom number starts coming into reach not because your income exploded, but because your money stopped leaking. That shift in structure is what separates people who spend decades working from those who step away sooner with confidence. Retiring at 45 isn't only about how much you invest. It's about how wisely those investments are sheltered and allowed to grow. Every system gives you tools. Some people ignore them, others use them to exit the workforce years or even decades earlier than expected. The difference comes down to intention, not luck. This step is about protecting your growth so you don't work longer than you need to. Once you understand that compounding is faster when taxes don't interfere, you stop treating tax-advantaged accounts like options and start treating them like priorities. That one shift can cut years off your journey and bring financial independence within reach far sooner than you thought possible. When your money grows uninterrupted, retirement stops being a distant hope. It becomes a timeline you can control, and that control is exactly why this step matters. 4. Avoid wealth killers. One of the biggest reasons people never reach financial independence isn't lack of income. It's financial leakage. In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there is a core idea that separates those who build wealth from those who lose control of it. Money flows away from people who do not direct it. You can invest consistently, calculate your freedom number, and use tax advantages correctly. But if your income is constantly bleeding into debt, interest, and unnecessary spending, your progress slows to a crawl. Wealth killers don't always show up in dramatic ways. They slip in quietly and disguise themselves as normal parts of life. The higher your income rises, the more dangerous they become, because lifestyle upgrades are easier to justify when you feel like you're doing well. Debt is one of the fastest ways to sabotage your journey to early retirement. Some people lose years of financial progress just by carrying expensive balances on credit cards. High interest debt doesn't just take your money, it steals your compounding power. Every payment you make toward interest could have been working toward your freedom number. And worse, debt conditions you to view borrowed money as an extension of your income. The moment you begin to treat credit as convenience instead of cost, you've given your future away in installments. When you carry debt, your money is already spoken for before you even earn it. Car payments are another silent assassin. Many people lock themselves into multi-year loans for vehicles that don't generate income, don't increase freedom, and don't hold long-term value. What feels like a smart upgrade often becomes a financial burden that sits on your back for 5 to 7 years at a time. The problem isn't transportation, it's financing a lifestyle symbol that drains money you could have invested. A car that costs you every month pushes retirement further away. A car that's paid off or reasonably priced helps move you toward freedom instead of away from it. Mortgages can be strategic or destructive depending on the decisions made around them. A home that matches your needs is an asset in the sense that it provides stability and eliminates rent. But stretching beyond your means for something oversized, status-driven, or emotionally motivated can lock you into decades of stress. When your mortgage consumes too much of your income, you're not building wealth, you're maintaining an image. Financial independence requires space to invest, and oversized housing costs quietly eliminate that space. What looks impressive today can become the very thing that delays your exit from work by 10 or 20 years. Impulse spending is another trap that drains more freedom than most people realize. Lifestyle purchases, subscriptions, upgrades, and unplanned expenses don't always feel harmful in the moment because they're individually small. But together, they create a slow leak in your progress. Every time money leaves your hands without intention, it takes opportunity with it. You don't just lose the money, you lose what that money could have become with compounding. The problem isn't enjoyment, it's autopilot. The moment spending becomes emotional instead of strategic, you start working for things that don't serve your future. The difference between people who reach financial independence and those who stay stuck often has less to do with income and more to do with self-control. Some individuals earn average wages but avoid lifestyle traps, and they end up free decades earlier than high earners who inflate their expenses as their salary goes up. No one gets dragged down by one giant decision. It's usually a series of small, normalized choices that add up over time. The hardest part is that many wealth killers are socially accepted. People encourage each other to upgrade cars, buy bigger homes, swipe cards to treat themselves, and worry about paying later. But paying later is exactly what destroys momentum. Avoiding wealth killers isn't about deprivation. It's about refusing to trade long-term freedom for short-term appearances. When you start seeing every financial choice through the lens of your freedom number, your decisions naturally shift. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this payment?" you begin asking, "Is this moving me closer to or further from retiring at 45? That single question rewires your thinking. You stop trying to look successful and start becoming quietly, powerfully free. There's also a psychological side to this. People often upgrade their lifestyle to reward themselves for hard work, to prove progress, or to feel equal to those around them. But the truth is, the more you rely on appearance, the longer you have to keep working to support it. Financial independence reverses that dynamic. It gives you the ability to live comfortably without pressure, without pretending, and without debt breathing down your neck. The people who retire early aren't always the ones who looked wealthy along the way. They're the ones who directed their money with purpose. Another important mindset shift is recognizing that avoiding wealth killers is not about perfection. You don't have to eliminate every mistake or live on the bare minimum. You simply need to stop normalizing habits that drain your future. Paying off debt, driving something reasonable, living within your means, and being intentional about spending is not about restriction. It's about acceleration. Every unnecessary payment you eliminate is power redirected toward your freedom. Think of it like building a boat. Investing, tax efficiency, and compounding are the sails. But avoiding wealth killers is the part where you plug the holes in the hull. You can't cross the ocean of financial independence if you're leaking from every direction. It doesn't matter how strong the wind is. If you're sinking slowly, you'll never arrive. Plugging those leaks doesn't just protect you, it speeds you up. The moment you stop letting destructive expenses control your timeline, everything changes. You no longer wake up working to pay off the past. You wake up investing in the future. You no longer feel trapped by the idea of always needing more income. You begin to free up money you already have. And once that shift begins, retiring at 45 stops, sounding like a fantasy, and starts looking like math. Wealth isn't only built by what you add, it's preserved by what you stop losing. Avoiding these traps isn't the sacrifice people think it is. What feels like letting go is actually taking control. And once you remove the weight holding you back, your progress forward becomes unstoppable. 5. Grow your earning power. Reaching financial independence by 45 isn't just about cutting expenses, it is also about expanding your ability to earn. There's only so much you can reduce, but there is no limit to how far your income can grow when you approach it with strategy instead of survival mode. Most people stay stuck in the same earning range for years, not because they lack ability, but because their mindset was built around maintaining a job, not building income. The moment you stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a builder, everything changes. Your income is one of the most powerful tools in your journey to freedom. The more you earn, the more you can invest, and the faster you can reach your freedom number. What slows most people down isn't that they don't earn enough. It's that they never actively work on increasing their earning power. They focus on saving pennies while ignoring the opportunity to grow their income by hundreds or thousands. Cutting expenses can speed you up, but increasing your income has the power to launch you forward. Growing your earning power starts with developing skills that have marketplace value. Instead of waiting for a promotion or hoping for a pay raise, you intentionally position yourself for higher income. The world constantly shifts, but one thing remains true. People are paid in proportion to the problems they can solve. When you increase your value through skills, expertise, or results, you increase your income potential. That could mean learning digital marketing, data analysis, copywriting, user experience design, software development, consulting, sales strategy, or any skill that helps others grow, save time, or make money. The advantage of skill-based growth is that you don't always need certifications, degrees, or permission to start. In today's world, many high-income skills can be learned through affordable courses, mentorships, or focused self-education. Someone who learns one strong skill can double their income faster than someone who waits for a pay review at their job. And once you develop a skill, it becomes an asset that no one can take from you. Skills compound just like money does. Another path to increasing earning power is freelancing or consulting. Taking what you already know and offering it independently can create an entirely new income stream without quitting your job. Whether it's design, writing, coaching, editing, tech support, voice work, strategy sessions, or specialized knowledge, freelancing allows you to turn time into income on your own terms. Many people discover that one side skill pays more per hour than their main job. That extra income can be directed straight into investments without increasing lifestyle costs. For some people, the fastest leap per income comes from changing jobs or industries altogether. Staying in the same role with the same employer for too long can lock you into a limited income range. Shifting to a better paying company, renegotiating your salary, or moving into a role with performance-based earnings can increase your yearly income in one move more than years of waiting. The workplace rewards movement and ambition more than quiet loyalty. You don't need a new career. You need better positioning. Entrepreneurial thinking also plays a role in growing your earning power. You don't have to build a massive company to benefit. Even a small online business, digital product, coaching offer, or automated service can produce supplemental income. The key is to create offers that don't require endless effort to maintain. A digital course, a template, a guide, a subscription service, or an agency model can generate income repeatedly without trading direct time for money. This kind of scaling accelerates your path to financial independence. Then there are remote and online opportunities. The global shift in work has opened the door to location-free income. You're no longer limited by your city, your country, or your local job market. If you can deliver value digitally, you can be paid globally. That means your earning opportunities expand beyond the cost of living in your area, and the gap becomes fuel for wealth creation. Geographic limits used to define income. Now, skill and access define it. Another part of growing your earning power is negotiation. Most people never ask for more, even when they're delivering more. Learning to communicate your value, track your results, and confidently request higher pay is a skill that can increase your income immediately. Employers and clients rarely offer more unless you ask. The difference between staying silent and speaking up can be thousands of extra dollars each year invested toward your freedom. But increasing income only matters if you keep the gap between what you earn and what you spend. The danger of earning more is lifestyle expansion. If your expenses rise with your income, you lose the advantage. The goal is not to increase spending, it's to create a wider investing gap. Imagine earning an extra $1,000 a month and investing it instead of consuming it. The truth is, financial freedom becomes dramatically faster when your earning power increases. A person saving $500 a month might feel like, retirement at 45 is impossible. But someone earning more and investing $2,000 a month enters a completely different timeline. What looked unrealistic from one income level becomes obvious from another. Earning power isn't about status, it's about acceleration. The mindset shift is simple. Stop seeing income as something that happens to you and start seeing it as something you build. Your skills, your decisions, your positioning, and your initiative determine your earning ceiling far more than your job title. You don't need to wait for an opportunity. You can create one. You don't need permission to learn a new skill. You can start today. You don't need a master plan. You need upward movement. Growing your income is not about working more hours forever. It's about working smarter, positioning better, and choosing opportunities that compound instead of keeping you stuck. When you earn more and keep your expenses controlled, every month becomes a leap forward. You stop crawling toward retirement and start sprinting. Financial independence isn't built by cutting a loan. It's built by expanding what's possible. When your income grows and your discipline stays strong, you stop living in survival mode and start living in strategy mode. That's when retiring at 45 becomes less of a dream and more of a scheduled event. Growing your earning power isn't about chasing status or burning yourself out. It is about collapsing the timeline to freedom. The more you earn and the more you keep, the faster you buy back your time. You're not crawling toward retirement. You're accelerating it with every new skill, every smart move, every raise, client, or stream of income you create. Remember this, your salary is not your ceiling, it's your starting point. Most people stay stuck because they believe income is something that happens to them, not something they can build. But the moment you shift your mindset, everything else follows. As Warren Buffett said, the best investment you can make is in yourself. When you work on your skills, your value rises, and so does your freedom. You don't need permission to improve your income. You don't need the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or someone to hand you an opportunity. Your earning power expands the moment you decide it will. Jim Rohn once said, "Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune." That fortune isn't always millions. It's the ability to walk away from work decades earlier than most. And here is what most people forget. Every extra dollar you earn and invest isn't just money. It's last time. Time you won't spend working in your 50s. Time you won't trade away for someone else's goals. Time you get to live on your own schedule. As the saying goes, money can't buy happiness, but it can buy back your life. Growing your income is not about having more things. It's about needing less from the world around you. It's creating a future where work becomes a choice, not a requirement. When you combine discipline with higher earning power, retiring at 45 stops sounding bold and starts looking practical. And the momentum doesn't stop here. The next phase is about protecting what you're building, multiplying your wins, and refusing to let your effort slip through the cracks of bad habits and avoidable costs. Freedom isn't something you wait for. It's something you build. And step by step, make it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and share. Goodbye.